What's poppin', everybody? It's Rayboar 94. So, with the release of Ultra Prism, when that set is going to get released, metal decks are going to get even more power. There's a lot of support in that set for meta Pokemon. They're already very good in standard as it is, having cards like Solgaleo, GX, and Metagross GX, and they're even better in expanded, getting access to shit like Bronzong too, and I guess they don't really need a Keldale since you got Solgaleo, but if you don't want to run that guy, we're going to get the Dawn Wings Necrozma and expanded as Keldeo too. So Metal decks are already meta and they're pretty good, and they're going to be even better in expanded. Well, maybe not, well, there's more competition in expanded, but they get more options. So one deck that I feel like is going to be pretty good that I use a lot, that I really like, is Rayboar. And that deck can actually be a great counter to metal decks because you've got Rayquaza, of course, as always, that can get one-hit knockouts. But even better, we can have fire Pokemon, fire techs in that deck. Now, I posted a deck profile of that deck. I don't know how many days ago. Maybe it's a week ago. Maybe it's a couple of days ago. And I made some changes in that deck. Basically, I swapped a Rayquaza for Entei GX, but in general, I want to talk about some other options and some techs and other cards you can put to make that deck better and to be good against, well, it's going to be good against metal decks anyway, but maybe explain some of this shit. So I put Rayquaza here because I still think this is a solid card despite doing not very good damage. It has a few little things here and there that are important. For one, it can hit Dragon Pokemon for weakness. Now I know that's not very big, but it can still happen. You're going up against other Rayquaza EXs or other Pokemon. And Shred, because it doesn't hit, it ignores effects on the defending Pokemon. If by some slim chance somebody's playing something like Pyroar, this is like your only out. You don't have any other out in this deck. I guess there's Embor, but that's not very good. But yeah. So I feel like this is a nice little basic Pokemon to run. I run one, but maybe you can drop it entirely if you want to. Now, this Rayquaza, the Shining Rayquaza, as you can see, I don't have a lot of the cards in here, but I want to show you guys. So thankfully, we get the color when I click on the card. That's good. So this is the Shining Rayquaza from Shining Legends. I really want this so I can use it in standard too, but in a deck like this, like Rayboar, maybe Rayquaza EX is still better because he has the potential to knock out uh, Pokemon that go over 190 HP and stuff like that. But since this is only a basic Pokemon, it might still not be too bad if you want to run it. The cost is quite hefty, discarding 3 energies for 190, but yeah. If you were going to knock out, I guess, Pokemon with 150 and 130 HP anyway, you would have to discard 3. So maybe he's not that bad. Uh, Dragon Pulse is the same 1 energy attack as the other Rayquaza. Their HP are the same. Retreat is the same. It's just the weakness that's different and their attacks. You can use it if you like. You can do 2 Rayquaza EX, 1 of this, or maybe you want to be completely bold, 1 Rayquaza EX and 1 Shiny Rayquaza. But, you know, it's still something. It's a card that you can use. Now, to the main, I guess, part of the video is going to be the fire techs. Now, like I've said, when we use Rayboar, as opposed to using Magnezone or Ray Eels, we get to take advantage of fire Pokemon better. And I believe that having fire to hit for weakness is better than having lightning to hit for weakness. That's what I feel like, especially now with the metal Pokemon, like I've said. They're going to be very good. They're already very good. And I'm not saying that shit like Magnezone, the metal Magnezone that accelerates metal energy that in Ultra Prism is going to be the shit. But it's definitely more reasonable uh, that it's going to be a deck comparing it with shit like the Lightning Magnezone and Standard with Raikou, because Raikou can get one-hit knockouts easily. Well, it's almost impossible, but yeah. In Ultra Prism, we're going to get the Duskmane, Solgaleo, Duskmane and Necrozma, man, I always get confused. There's the Ultra Prism Solgaleo too. There's a bunch of other cards. We already have other metal Pokemon like Solgaleo EX, GX, and Metagross that can do a lot of damage. So yeah, and Registeel, and there's all sorts of shit. Metal deck's very good. So this deck is going to be pretty good against them. So one of the guys that I like very much is Entei GX. Now this card is cool for a number of reasons. Number one is in a deck like Rayboar, you want to get Emboar out because all of your attackers, they really need a lot of energy to work. Rayquaza, to get those one-hit knockouts and shit, you have to discard a lot of energy, attach a lot of energy in the first place. And that's why, you know, they go together. But it's good to have a couple of attackers that maybe they can attack early or not really rely so much on Emboar. And NTGX kind of does that a little bit. It's got a 2 for 50 attack. It's not the greatest in the world, and it's not as fast as if it cost 1 energy or some shit, but it's still a little decent and something that maybe if we open with this guy, you know, we can just attach 1, 2 fire energies and start attacking, and we don't have to wait for Emboar, because a lot of times in Rayboar and even in Rayos, basically you don't even attack the couple of first turns because you're trying to set up. You don't attack, you try to get your guys out, your Emboar out, or if you're playing Ray Eels, you get your Eels out. So you can attach a bunch of energy and get one-hit knockouts instantly. But, you know, doing 2 for 50 without ditching energies and shit, maybe can put a little pressure in the beginning. And softening Pokemon is good and it is useful in this deck because, uh, you know, Rayquaza used to do 1 for 80, and that was like what you wanted to do, get one-hit knockouts on EX Pokemon. But now there's like GX Pokemon that have 190 HP. There's Stage GX Pokemon going between 200 and 240 and 250. And that's difficult. It makes you have to ditch a lot of energies and attach a lot of energies, and it becomes harder. You might even have to put 5 energies if you want to knock out like a 250 stage GX Pokemon with Rayquaza. And then it becomes kind of crazy. He still has the ability to do so, which is great, but it's not easy. So softening up your opponent's guys, even like by a little bit, can make a great difference. That's why I'm going to talk about a couple of tools later on too. Well, it's one tool, but anyway. And Fire Fang, 3 for 100, an instant burn. It's alright. I mean, I would have rather it did like 1 for 20 with no effect, maybe. 130 actually, since other Pokemon can do this. But I guess we get the burn. The important thing is that it's an 100 for 3 attack. If you hit for weakness, it's going to be 200. If you have like a Muscle Band on or a Choice Band or some shit, you can get those one-hit knockouts on the big Metal GX Pokemon. But the best thing about this card and why I run it, the most important thing is Brave Burn GX. This gives us the opportunity to have a sniper, kind of like in Ray Eels with Raikou. And even though you can only do this once, it's much better doing 150 and you don't ditch any energies. So we can do this against Garbodor in like we would with Raikou, or in general just snipe something and get a knockout. The good thing is with this is that we can get a knockout on something like Shaymin EX if somebody's playing that, or other, you know, low HP EX or GX Pokemon. Even something like fuck, what's it called? Marshadow GX. Now that guy's usually going to be active if it's used in fucking Night March, but still something. And in general, it's just good to snipe for this much. Now, it would have been better, of course, if you could do like more damage, like maybe 170 or some shit, so you can get a knockout on Tapu Lele and cool shit like that. But it's still very good. This is why this is a very good tech. One of the reasons you would run it, and I decided to run it, as opposed to many of these other techs. But you know, it's up to you. It's a very good card though. It makes great sense in something like Rayboar. It's got an early attack. It's got the snipe. Fire Fang is also decent. You know, not bad. I don't know what else to say about Brave Burn. I guess the thing is, we don't, in a deck like that, there's a lot of old cards, and we don't even take advantage of the GX concept. So it's good to have that option as well. Like, why not use it since we have the ability to use one GX attack? So this is a great candidate. Now another guy, if you want to do, is Ho-Ho GX. This card has 10 more HP and has a fighting resistance and a lightning weakness. This is important. You get that little variation. I mean, in Rayboar, you're going to have variation anyway because your main attacker is Rayquaza, and you got the fire Pokemon as backup anyway. But, you know, it's still nice. Weakness to lightning, and also has a resistance. So this Pokemon also goes well with Rayboar because you have the ability to put 4 fire energy with him and do straight up 180 without ditching shit. So he kind of acts like Rayquaza EX in this sense, but you don't discard the energy. And you can't use Phoenix Burn next turn. But, you know, when we do this, we have ways around it. And, you know, if you do it right, it's not a big of a drawback. We can even retreat, honestly. And, you know, Sacred Fire, a snipe for 50 for 3, that's not that amazing, but I guess it's there. And we can also use Eternal Flame GX. Now, this attack is quite costly, and maybe it's not that worth it, but it is there. You can put 3 in any combination of Fire Pokemon GX or Fire Pokemon EX from your discard pile onto your bench. So it's a really limiting recovery effect. I don't really think we can recover like almost anybody from the deck, like unless you run Ho-Ho and Entei or other Pokemon. So it's kind of useless to be honest. The way I remember it when I read it in Burning Shadows, my set review, I remember that you could like grab any 3 fire Pokemon and put them on the bench, and that was much better. But like this, it's not that good. But I guess maybe if you run other fire Pokemon EX, there's a bunch of options too that I'm not gonna go over them. I don't think they're worth it. But yeah, Ho-Ho GX, still a solid option for Phoenix Burn. Now, for the basic fire Pokemon that you can run, well, I guess there's also Tornado GX. I almost forgot about this guy. So there's another guy you can run, 190 HP once again. So that's cool. Shell Trap is another early attack that can be kind of annoying for the opponent. You only do 20, but if they attack you, put 8 damage counters on them. That's really strong. Now, most people are going to be clever and play around this. They're not going to attack you when you do Shell Trap, but maybe sometimes they don't have a choice. Either way, this guy has a much better GX attack and a very solid second attack too. Bright Flame is a 160 fire attack. You discard 2 energies. Very fitting for our Rayboar deck. You can do a lot of damage. Once again, not quite enough to get the knockouts with Rayquaza, but if you are going to run cards like Muscle Band in that deck or what have you, then he gets a little better. And you know, it's still a decent little attack, I guess. Maybe you do this for other smaller stage Pokemon. Yeah, but really, he's just another decent option. He's the weakest options. He's the weakest option if I compare him with Entei and Ho, but you know, he's there. The best thing about this guy is actually Nitro Tank. So this is a way to grab energy, recycle energy, and not rely so much on Emboar maybe. Now, it does take your attack for the turn. You have to attack, and it's the GX attack too. But if you time this right, this is very good. Maybe sometimes you do get weird hands with Rayboar. You can't really escape it no matter what. It's just one of those kinds of decks. Maybe you have to discard a lot of resources, or you have the option to either discard important trainers, Pokemon, or sacrifice energies. And sacrificing energies, at least, if we have to sacrifice a lot of energies, we can use Nitro Tank and get them back and attach them as well. Maybe when we haven't gotten Embor out yet. And, in general, you know, just any kind of energy recycling you can have in this kind of a deck can be helpful. Because if you do lose energies, you do lose in this kind of deck. So, if you could save a little bit of your energy retrievals and superior energy retrievals for a bit and maybe do this, it's not bad. So another decent option. Now for the basic fire Pokemon, I only have basically 2 guys, I guess 3, but yeah. We got the Reshiram, the classic one, the one from Black and White. Got reprinted a billion times. I decided to put the Legendary Treasures version here. I think it's my favorite. I mean, if I had the secret rare, I would run that. The one, the full art one, actually. I think it's in Black and White, yeah. But I decided to show this one. Maybe more people are familiar with it. The other one is much harder to get. This one is from Legendary Treasures. Probably not so hard to get. Outrage is another nice attack that doesn't discard energy that maybe we can take advantage of. And Blue Flare, your main attack. You discard 2 energy, do a lot of damage. This is very good for knocking out, basic Pokemon, other Pokemon, and in general just taking advantage of the fire weakness and knocking out metal Pokemon. Now, back then this was very good, but now we have another option that might be a little better. So, one of the problems with Blue Flare is that even though 120 for 3 is very good, there's a lot of basic Pokemon, like this Reshiram for instance, that they've got 130 HP. So you can't really get a knockout. So even though other Pokemon like Heatran from Phantom Forces, they would cost more, that 130 is a magical number. And it's better. So this card maybe has been kind of a power crept a little bit. It's crazy to think about, but yeah. It's still good, but you won't be able to get a knockout against a Pokemon like that. And the other disappointing thing is that Pokemon like Metagross GX, Solgaleo GX with 250 HP, even if you hit them for weakness, it's going to be 240. So it doesn't quite knock them out, and that's not cool. So your other option, a Pokemon that can also be very good, is the Shining Legends Reshiram. This is a new card. It comes in Shining Legends. It's a rare holo. It's got the same outrage attack. I'm pretty sure it's 100% the same. Let me check. Yeah. Same attack. They cost the same energy. They've got the same HP. It has 1 more retreat cost, which can't be a bitch. But Scorching Breath is going to be a better attack in a lot of situations. That 110 damage is pretty magical. Now, I'm not really 100% on this Pokemon can attack during your next turn. Ho-Oh has this as well, but Ho-Oh's attack is much more reliable, at least. But with this, if you hit for weakness, you're gonna do 260, and that can knock out Metagross and Solgaleo. So it's better in that sense. And naturally, you knock out 130 HP Pokemon as well. So maybe this is better. I think I would actually run this instead of Reshiram. Now, like I've said, the you can't attack shit can't be very annoying because, being able to just use Blue Flare and be free to attack next turn if they don't do shit, you can put up the pressure this way. But, that 10 damage, like I've said, it just seems more fitting these days. Being able to knock out Metagross or Solgaleo and other guys is kind of crucial in one hit. And it doesn't discard energies too, so that's pretty cool. Now, you're probably going to have to ditch 3 to retreat next turn if you're not going to have a float stone or switch, and you don't always have those cards if you run them in the first place. But I feel like maybe this is better. So I would suggest if you have this, run this over this Reshiram. Obviously in my Rayboar you're going to see this because I don't have this. But both options are kind of decent. It depends on your preference. But I think this guy is the best. Just because of that 10 damage is magical. Now, if you run cards like Muscle Band and other shit, then it's not necessary at all. Uh, he doesn't make much difference, and it's just mainly for weakness. And I guess with 150 HP Pokemon, you hit them then. But if you run like maybe Muscle Bands and that kind of shit, maybe this is still better. But in general, this might be better. And the other option, this isn't very good, but I guess you can consider it, is Shining Ho-Ho. It's got 130 HP as well, only to retreat. And once again, has weakness to lightning instead of water. Resists fighting too, can be handy. This guy does 110 damage for 4, but you only discard 1 energy. So this is kind of a much weaker attack than the Reshirams. Once again, for metal Pokemon, I guess up to 220 HP. For weakness, you can knock them out. But there is no way in hell you're going to knock out Metagross and Solgaleo and that kind of shit. But he has an ability, Golden Wing. When he gets knocked out, you can move 2 basic energy cards from this Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. So it goes once again into the more conservative approach. You conserve energies, you recycle energies, and that is actually very useful. I would definitely run this card in a different meta game. Like maybe if I had space and I would run like shit like Muscle Band, then definitely, because then he can still do the hit for at least 130 damage with Muscle Band, and you get those one-hit knockouts on the 250 weak Pokemon. And you can also recycle these energies too. That's pretty amazing. It's great. So another option, if you want to run him, he's cool. He's unique. Okay, so these are the Pokemon. So now I want to talk about a couple of trainers, and I've mentioned Muscle Band a couple of times, so I'm going to talk about this first. So in Rayboar, if you see my deck and other deck lists in general, there are decks that are pushed with space. You don't have a lot of space to put extra shit, and there used to be, they weren't even that necessary to be honest back then. Since Rayquaza can knock out anything if you put the necessary energies, cards like Muscle Band and shit were redundant. But with the higher HP Pokemon, like I've mentioned, the Stage GXs and stuff like that, he has a little bit more trouble. So something like Muscle Band or even Fighting Fury Belt can make a difference, because when you have that, for example, if you have like a Fighting Fury Belt or a Muscle Band, if you're going to knock out a 130 HP basic Pokemon, you only have to discard 2 energy as opposed to 3. You would have to waste 3 to discard to knock out a Pokemon like that. So these cards do help you save a little bit of energy, and they give you that extra little touch for Pokemon that I've mentioned, like for example, if you have a Muscle Band on, you can still knock out something like Metagross with only 4 energies as opposed to 5. You know, it's only that little 10 damage you fall short on, and Muscle Band can help you with that. And the reason why I put Muscle Band here as opposed to Choice Band is because Muscle Band is just amazing. I think just having that flexibility to work on anything, and you can attach it to anything, and it does damage to either the basic Pokemon or regular stage Pokemon, and doing 20, you know, not bad on EXs and GXs too. It's just great. Like I've said, you only need a little bit of extra touch. You don't really need 30 damage from Choice Band. You just need a little bit more damage. Muscle Band does it to help Rayquaza with those knockouts. And even the fire Pokemon that I've mentioned, they only need a little bit more. So it's better to have that flexibility rather than that 10 extra damage, I feel like. Another option is Fighting Fury Belt, like I've said. In my Ray Ills deck, I do run one of those cards just to make Rayquaza a little bit more, I guess you could say, more bulky, let's say. And it also does the job, but I decided to show Muscle Band here. Yeah, both are decent options. It's just even that 10 extra damage that Fighting Fury Belt does, it really is all you need. Like if you discard 4 energies, it's 240. So with that 10 extra, you're doing 250. And if you're doing 180, discarding 3, and they have a 190 Pokemon, it does that extra 10 once again. It's just that magical 10. So even Fighting Fury Belt is just great. But if you want to run Muscle Band too, it's fine. It works better on these guys. Okay, so I guess the other extra damage card is Devoured Field. This is basically 100% for the Rayquazas. That's it. Fire Pokemon can use this. It's a stadium too, that's why it's good to have like a counter stadium, and perhaps you won't really have in Rayboar. So this is another option. That 10 extra damage, like I've said, you can do it this way, help Rayquaza this way, and it's another damage adder. Speaking of stadiums, I do have to talk about these. These are the tropical beaches. I've mentioned them a couple of times. This is a stadium that you can use in this deck to help it set up. A lot of people, I remember Puka saying this many times, if you want to be serious with these decks, you have to run these cards. They're quite expensive, they're quite hard to find in real life and online. I don't believe you necessarily need them if you have a very consistent build. Of course, they can help sometimes when you can't get going, but the downside is your opponent can use this as well. And it's not like other stadiums. This card can really help your opponent out a lot of the times. I know because I've used this card from my opponents many times to my advantage in a very crucial way. So you can help your opponent out greatly with this too. So, I mean, if you have it, maybe running one isn't bad. This is for the World's 2011 card, and this is the World's 2012. You probably won't have it anyway, but you know, if you do want to run this very badly, you want to get it for your collection anyway. It's another decent stadium. I don't really want to talk about stadiums in this video because there's just so many good stadiums you can put. Sky Arrow Bridge, you can put the one that limits your opponent's bench. I can't remember the name. Parallel Stadium, I think is what it's called. You've got this too. You can even put Silent Stadium, Silent Lab. That doesn't really hurt anybody from you. I guess unless you run maybe Shining Ho-Oh or you're running Mime. But it doesn't hurt any of you guys and can block your opponent's basic Pokemon abilities. So yeah. So for the A spec, in my video you guys see I run Computer Search. It's probably the best card for consistency. But if you want to be like I don't want to say smart ass, it's people's preference, but I guess if you want to be like more risky and have that additional option, you can run Dowsing Machine. I guess in a way this can also act as a consistency card, but most people will run this to have an additional, you know, of any trainer, basically. So yeah, you can use this, grab that additional Superior Energy Retrieval or Energy Retrieval or Professor's Letter, I don't know, Rare Candy, Supporter, anything. It's a very good option, to be honest. I just feel like Joker, Computer Search is the way to go in a deck like this. But, like I've said, it's up to you guys. I just thought I'd mention it because I don't really feel any other A-Spec is worth it besides these two cards. Master Ball is kind of redundant. Yeah, you can grab maybe Tapu Lele with it, but besides that, Nest Ball and just about any ball can do what that card does in Rayboar. We have like Nest Ball, Heavy Ball for our guys. Master Ball isn't that necessary. And anything else like Gold Potion and Life Dew and those kind of cards, just they're not really necessary, not really worth it to risk those effects, risk having those A specs that could be dead, as opposed to something like Dyson Machine and Computer Search. And the last card I want to talk about is Fisherman. Now I almost forgot about this card, and I should probably run it in my decks, maybe, because I did used to run it, but I think I dropped it for some reason for, I don't know, I guess maybe other supporters, but this is a very good card to run in something like Rayboar once you get going, because a lot of the times once you get set up and you have everything you need, really the only thing you need is energies. You're using your supporters basically to draw energies, you're using your Junipers and shit trying to draw energies or draw your fucking energy retrievals and what have you. So it's perfectly fine that there's a supporter, and it's basically a costless superior energy retrieval. Basically, you just use your supporter to grab 4 energies, and that is very good. So this is another very good option. You can definitely run this. I'm probably gonna find a way to put it in my deck because I know it's very good. It's definitely very good. Of course, you know, being a supporter sometimes it might screw you over, but like I've said, you know how to use it. The great thing is, because of this is a supporter as well, is if you have to ditch it and shit, you've got VS Seeker too, so it has that combination with VS Seeker, so it's very good. It's a very good card, honestly. That little drawback of being a supporter is just not enough for all the benefits it can give you. He's amazing, pretty much. So, especially if you don't have like superior energy retrieval, because I'm pretty sure some of you guys are going to have difficulty to get it. It's not a very easy card to get, being only released in Plasma Freeze, I believe. Yeah, either Plasma Freeze or Plasma Storm, I don't remember, but uh, it's hard to get for just a uncommon card. Like a lot of trainers like that are great. So maybe if you can't get a lot of these, this with energy retrieval should be very good for you. So there's another option. Very, very nice. So these are the cards, guys. I just thought I'd mention some text because, you know, maybe I can like do another deck profile of Rayboar, showing you some differences and shit. But either way, even if I talk about NTGX and a bunch of other cards, I just want to go in depth about all the cards you can use. In Expanded, that deck is very good. I think it's going to be pretty good when metal decks become very popular. So maybe if you can build this deck cheap or you want to try it out, it's going to be better than it is. Now, Night March is a bitch. That fucking deck is probably never going to die. Who knows? But maybe Metal Pokemon will fuck it up, and then maybe you can use this to fuck that deck up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys subscribe. These are some of the best decks. There's probably other cards too, but these are just some of the best that I thought of, that I found. For me, like I've said, out of these, I use NTGX in my Rayboar now, and maybe I would take this out when I eventually get this. But basically, that's pretty much it. The other cards are just more for your preference or more for specific situations. Like this is very good if, you know, the format was different. But yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys subscribe, leave a like, share this with your friends. For all about Rayboar, you know, Ray Eels, these kinds of decks that focus around Rayquaza EX. I love that Pokemon, you know, main attacker guy. For that kind of shit, you know, you're down with my channel. You're gonna see some shit. I've got a lot of games too, and I'll be definitely posting more. I can't wait for Ultra Prism. I'm gonna try the metal shit decks too because I love that shit. Energy Acceleration, Magnezone. Oh, and it looks like the connection, the network connection, has been lost. Okay, so I've been rambling long enough. Hope you guys enjoyed. Rayboar 94, and what's up?